I want to get really tactical here with the person that's listening right now, and they have me and you in their ears, and they know that sugar is bad. They know ultra-processed food is bad. They still are struggling with a little bit of fat, other sort of diseases. They're probably on the trajectory to some form of chronic disease, maybe Alzheimer's, maybe dementia, maybe a form of cancer. Yeah. What do we if we're talking direct, let's name her or him. Let's call her Jenny. Jenny's listening right now. Jenny and Dave. They're both sat there. They're the average American. What do we say to Jenny and Dave to get them to change their lives?
The first thing that you have to say to them is, who are you? Do you know? Do you know who you are? Because if they don't know who they are, then nothing else is going to matter. They have to be comfortable in their own skin, and they're not. The reason that they have glommed on to ultra-processed food is it's providing them with a dopamine hit. And it's probably the only thing that even remotely gives them pleasure. And if that's all the pleasure they get in their lives, you're never going to fix it, because that's all they've got. So the question is, sorting your priorities at the individual level. What's important to you? What's of primary importance? Love, relationships. What's of secondary importance? Pleasure, food, drugs. Okay? If you don't have any of the love, relationships, stability in your life, there's no amount of food or drugs that's going to be able to make up for that. So who are you? What is it that really matters to you? And until you answer that question honestly and affirmatively, you're never going to get past this.
So let me role play as Jenny and Dave. You've asked me, who am I? I am 30 years old and I work this job. The job's okay. I don't love it. It's not lighting me up. I'm single. I'm living in this city. And yeah, I'm just, trundling along, kind of like on the treadmill of life.
And how much stress are you under?
A lot of stress.
A whole lot of
Every
stress.
time I open my phone, it's stressful. My emails, my work, there's this thing going on with this person. I think my mum's got a problem with this thing and her health is deteriorating.
So imagine what that's doing to the ATP in your brain.
What's it doing?
It's depleting it like crazy. Number one, you have mitochondrial dysfunction from all the shit you ate and from the, unfortunately from the air pollution you've been breathing and from the microplastics, that have basically taken over your brain. 1/200th of your brain right now, Stephen, is microplastics, whether you like it or not. So Jenny and Dave probably have more, okay? And you eat well, they don't, all right? So here we are. This is the substrate. This is the base. The question is, how are we going to improve their ATP generation? How are we going to improve their mitochondrial function? How are we going to get their neurons to start responding properly? That's the question.
And do you aim at stress as part of the solution?
Yes, of course. You have to. How can you not? Let me give you another quick clinical vignette. Recently, I had the opportunity to have an extended conversation with a hero of mine, Dr. Vivek Murthy, who was the former Surgeon General of the United States. And we were in London together. And I finally sat him down and I said, Vivek, I love your, espousing of love, that we ultimately need to love each other to get over these systemic societal travails, that love is what's missing. Here's the problem. You can't love if your brain is inflamed.
You can't love if
You can't love if your brain is inflamed. Of course, the reason for the inflamed brain is the ultra-processed food and all the things we talked about, the reactive oxygen species, the cortisol, et cetera, that we talked about before.
So are you saying people that are metabolically unhealthy, that have inflamed brains, that are under stress, have a reduced ability to love?
Yes, it's exactly what I'm saying. They can't love themselves and they can't love anyone around them.
Explain the science there.
Serotonin.
What is serotonin?
Serotonin is a neurotransmitter that is necessary for eudaimonia, for being able to be content. Oxytocin is the love neurotransmitter, the reproduction neurotransmitter, the safety neurotransmitter. Okay? The cortisol causes the methylation of the oxytocin receptor. So now the oxytocin can't work, so you can't feel safe. And the serotonin is necessary to basically suppress that inflammation in the amygdala that's actually causing the buckshot, that the inability to surgically strike, like we talked about before, being that lousy point guard. So I said to him, you can't love if your brain is inflamed. And he thanked me, and I thought that was the end of that, and I'm not going to bother him anymore. 2 weeks ago, I got an email from Vivek saying, I've thought about what you said, and I'm halfway through your book, and let's talk.
You can't love if your brain is inflamed. I was just looking at a study that says high cortisol levels in a mum during pregnancy can affect the baby's oxytocin receptors, meaning they'll feel less safe.
Exactly right. And it's epigenetic. It happens even before birth.
I'm trying to form a couple of hypotheses here around what this might mean in practice. So, in the case of the mother, if the mother was under a lot of stress that resulted in cortisol, then the baby's oxytocin receptors, which are the bonding chemical within humans, the bonding hormone, is going to be depleted. So if I had a really stressful mother during my conception, whatever that...
During pregnancy. During gestation, yeah.
There's a causal probability that I might be less good at bonding with people.
There we are. That's exactly what we're saying.
But I guess also that can take place after pregnancy, whereas if I'm chronically stressed.
It's a continual process. The question is, can it be undone? And the answer is yes, but with a lot of work. And you have to have the baseline substrate to be able to do it.
There's a bit of what's the term when something becomes a little bit self-fulfilling, where it kind of...
Tautology?
What I'm saying is, if someone's lonely, extremely lonely, and they are in a single apartment alone, which is increasingly a lot of people.
Yes.
Then I've read
basements.
Yeah, well, but even in major cities like London and New York, etc., so many people live in a little shoebox alone.
Yep. Yes.
And I saw the studies that show the average person used to have X amount of friends to turn to in a time of crisis. Now they have, on average, it's like 1 or 0. So loneliness is up. And then I also saw some research that said when people are lonely, their body goes into a state where they sleep worse, they're more stressed, they're more bitter to people.
Yes.
And I can't remember the term for that, but it's like this heightened sensitivity. And the thesis is that once upon a time in an evolutionary context, if you lost your tribe, you would have to be more on edge to survive.
That's your amygdala.
And if that's the case, then it means that it would suggest that if you're lonely, you're higher stress.
Yes.
But if you're higher stress, you're more likely to be lonely.
That's right. That's the vicious cycle.
A vicious cycle. That's the term I was looking for.
That's the vicious cycle. Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. That's what we're trying to undo. So here's a question for you, quiz.
Uh-huh.
All right? And you know the answer.
Okay.
Okay? Because I've mentioned it already on this podcast.
Uh-oh.
All right? You ready?
Yeah.
What is the difference between loneliness and solitude?
Loneliness is a lack of human connection, and solitude is being alone.
Well, both have a lack of human connection.
I don't know. Tell me the answer. What's the answer?
Serotonin.
Okay.
If you're serotonin depleted, you're lonely. If you're serotonin replete, it's solitude. You're comfortable in your loneliness. You're happy that you're lonely. Because you're not really lonely, you're alone.
And how does that happen that I become lonely and in terms of the serotonin mechanism?
Well, you choose to be alone when you're in solitude, But the point is, that's what you want. That's what you chose. You could be with other people. You've chosen to be in solitude. When you're lonely, okay, the reason, even when people are coming at you, even when you're at a party and you are clearly not lonely, you feel like you are. You feel like you're there all by yourself, even though all these people are around you.
What is serotonin?
That's because you're serotonin depleted. Serotonin is a neurotransmitter. It's made from a amino acid called tryptophan. Tryptophan is the rarest amino acid in all of the proteins that we ingest. It's the rarest amino acid on the planet. It's found in eggs, chicken, fish, not exactly ultra-processed food. So people who eat ultra-processed food at high rate are going to be tryptophan deficient and therefore serotonin deficient, are going to be somewhat irritable and also somewhat lonely. And what it does is it inhibits the next neuron. It causes the next neuron not to fire instead of dopamine, which causes the next neuron to fire. They are very different. And serotonin, when it's at normal dose, gives you a feeling of contentment. Not necessarily happiness, but this feels good. I don't want or need any more.
So it's almost the opposite of dopamine.
It's the exact opposite of dopamine. Dopamine is this feels good, I want more. And serotonin is this feels good, I don't want or need any more.
And serotonin is predominantly made in the gut, 90%?
So 90% is made in the gut. The question is, does the gut serotonin get to the brain? And the answer is through the afferent vagus nerve. So that afferent vagus has to be functional and has to basically conduct information from the gut up to the brain in order to be able to transduce that. That is what we call intuition. That is called gut feeling.
So I need my vagus nerve to be healthy.
Yes, you do. And there are a lot of things that are causing that vagus nerve not to be healthy, including all of the gut inflammation that we talked about from the ultra-processed food.
So how do I make my vagus nerve healthy?
Eat real food.
What about those vagus nerve stimulators that everyone's banging on about?
So they're interesting, and they do have benefits for seizure control. Okay, for seizures, the vagus nerve, for some reason, transduces information up and down that help mitigate seizures. No one's been able to demonstrate, to my knowledge, that you can use a vagal nerve stimulator to actually change emotion.
I was looking at the research and it says exactly what you described, that a meta-analysis and long-term follow-ups show a 30 to 50% reduction in seizures for patients who use vagal nerve stimulation. But outside of that, in terms of depression, the evidence is modest.
Meager,
yeah. Around 15 to 25% show, which is above placebo. So it's small. And then with anxiety, it's the same. There's only low quality and small scale work. Right. They do say, though, that implanted vagus nerve stimulators show the strongest evidence for epilepsy and depression. But the bottom line is it works well for seizures, as you said, and there's still a lot unproven as it relates to stress and focus.
I wish they worked.
I mean, it would be an easy... one thing you learn from doing what I do with this podcast is you learn that in life, there are really not many shortcuts. And everything that appears to be a shortcut, some device, some contraption that's going to fix things, actually either doesn't work, is a scam, or has some hidden trade-off.
Right.
And so it goes back to this really important principle that I think everybody listening should embody, which is there's no free lunch in life. If it appears to be the fast way, it's probably a fast way to something else. And the slow way is the fast way. The hard way is the fast way. This is kind of what I've learned. Like, I can try all these things to try and trick, to try and not, to try and be able to eat sugar but be healthy. Yeah. And there's always some fucking trade-off. Like even Ozempic.
Exactly.
Everyone's talking about Ozempic.
It's a Band-Aid, not a fix.
What do you think of Ozempic?
How much time you got?
Well, depends what you think.
People ask me this all the time. I wear 3 hats. Okay, so I'll put my first hat on, my clinician hat. I'm glad they're here, these GLP-1 analogs. They do work. I'm not saying they don't. They do. And God knows if you have a BMI of 40 to 45 and you have tried everything else and nothing else works and it's a matter of life and death, then I am glad they're here. All right, now let me put my second hat on, my scientist hat. Okay, why do they work? They work in two places. They work actually at that nucleus accumbens, which I mentioned before, the reward center. It actually seems to reduce reward. It's one of the reasons why GLP-1 analogs are not just being used for obesity, but for alcoholism, for drug addiction, for many things, because they're basically putting that reward system to rest, which is a good thing. Now, we had a drug that did that back in 2006, put that reward system to rest. It was called rimonabant, trade name Acomplia. And what it was an anti-endocannabinoid. It was an endocannabinoid receptor antagonist. It was the anti-marijuana drug. It was the anti-munchies drug. And so it caused weight loss. And it got released in the European Union. The EFSA approved it in 2006. And within 2 months of its hitting the market, there were 21 suicides. Okay? And the reason is because if you suppress reward, ain't no reason to get out of bed in the morning. Okay? Now, the good news with these GLP-1 analogs is we've been looking for the suicide signal and haven't seen it. But we also looking for the depression signal, and we see that a lot. So it does seem to be having the same effect, maybe not as severe as rimonabant, but nonetheless, that's a downside for sure. Okay. Now, the second place it works, GI tract. It delays gastric emptying. It slows food going through the alimentary canal, especially the stomach. Okay? That's why it works, because you can't eat more if your stomach's still full, because it didn't move it along. Okay, that's good, sort of, except it gives you all the side effects. The nausea, the vomiting, the pancreatitis, the gastroparesis, stomach turns to stone. 3.4% of all people who take GLP-1 analogs get gastroparesis. And guess what? When you stop the med, the gastroparesis doesn't go away. And there is a lawsuit against Novo Nordisk right now over gastroparesis from GLP-1 analogs. Not so good. In addition, you lose weight. Okay, what kind of weight? Turns out half muscle, half fat. Now, losing fat's good. Losing muscle is not. Losing muscle is actually a risk factor for early demise. Sarcopenia is a risk factor for early demise. Now, what else causes loss of equal amounts of muscle and fat? Starvation. And that's how the damn medicines work. They're causing you to starve. Well, that's not the best way to do this, people. Also, only 1/3 of people who take GLP-1 analogs actually respond. 2/3 don't. They don't tell you about those. They're only telling you about the responders. And as soon as you stop taking it, all the weight comes rushing back plus some. Because you've only band-aided the problem, you haven't fixed the problem. Also, not such a great thing. And then finally, let me switch to my third hat, my public health advocate hat. Now, I did say these drugs work. 16% mean weight loss. True. Okay? If everyone in America who qualified for a GLP-1 analog got it, that would be $2.1 trillion to the healthcare system, which is currently $4.1 trillion. So that would be a 50% surcharge over what we're currently paying, and Medicare is going to go broke by the year 2029 anyway, without it. So you're going to put another 50% on top of that? How the hell are you going to pay for that for a 16% weight loss? Conversely, if we just got added sugar out of the diet, out of the American diet, to the level of USDA guidelines of 12 teaspoons of added sugar per day, no more, we could get a 29% weight loss and save $3.0 trillion. That's a $5.1 trillion swing for double the weight loss and no side effects. Which one do you think is better?
Yeah.
That's how I feel about it.
There was a recent animal research study that suggested that things like Ozempic, semaglutides, reduced cocaine administration in rats by roughly 30% during treatment and cut their drug-seeking behavior by 62% after a period of abstinence, which speaks to some of the things you were saying there about GLP-1s, Ozempic's role in the reward pathways in the brain.
Yep.
So
it's interesting.
It's interesting.
Very interesting.
But what is that saying? It's saying that in these rats, if they were given these GLP-1 antagonists, these Ozempics, these semaglutides, they were less likely to be addicted to things.
Yeah. I mean,
to cocaine.
I wouldn't say less likely to be addicted. They're already addicted. They're basically choosing not to continue to consume.
And again,
we don't know if they're addicted. They're rats. But their behaviors suggest that they're reducing the consumption of the addictive substance.
And what is this suggesting? This means that the GLP-1 is doing what?
Well, number one, maybe the reason that they're not consuming more is because their stomachs aren't moving. If your stomach's not moving, you don't want to take any more, do you?
Maybe, yeah.
Maybe it's that. We don't know. That's one possibility. There's no question that the nucleus accumbens has GLP-1 receptors. The ventral tegmental area has GLP-1 receptors. And I actually gave a talk at the California Society of Addiction Medicine on Ozempic. So we know what, the data show. We're still, researching this and trying to investigate it, figure out what it is. That also wouldn't explain the alcohol story because alcohol is not food. It's liquid. So it's a little different, and it definitely reduces alcohol consumption. So there does seem to be an effect.
Understanding what dopamine does from what you said earlier, it would appear that then these like GLP-1s, the Ozempics, are dampening dopamine's release in some way because the rats, when you talked about motivation and dopamine, the rats are less motivated to go and get more cocaine.
Correct. And that very well may be a good thing. And for certain people, I think we can absolutely use that phenomenon to assist them. Perhaps that will be a good way to help with drug interdiction.
Could that also mean that I become less motivated, period?
Yes.
That's not good.
Yes. That's what I'm worried about.
Going back to Jenny and Dave. Jenny and Dave both have a little bit of extra weight on them. We've talked about, really interestingly, the whole idea that serotonin, connection, love plays in a tremendous role. And stress. And so Jenny and Dave now, they're going to be thinking about their relationships and friendships and going to that run club as a way to help them downstream with addictions and other things they're struggling with. Is there anything else that Jenny and Dave, who represent the typical American, need to know to maybe shed some of that body fat?
Number one, ultra-processed food is obesogenic. Now, if Jenny and Dave are under stress, if Jenny and Dave are under financial stress, if Jenny and Dave are under time stress, it's going to be really hard for them to turn away from ultra-processed food. So don't expect their weight to get any better until they fix their diet. The one thing I am very sure of is that if you keep eating the same shit, don't expect anything good to happen.
But it's hard.
It's very hard. Some practical types of things. The first thing is that when they go to the store, don't go hungry.
Okay, love that.
That's the first one.
I make that mistake a lot.
All right. The second thing.
Why? Let's give some context there.
Oh, because if they're hungry, all bets are off. They're done.
Because they're more likely to reach for the bad stuff.
The bad stuff. Because the bad stuff's calling to them. And by the way, the bad stuff's on the end caps of each of the aisles of the grocery store.
And in the middle?
In the middle, if you've gone into the aisles, you've gone off the rails because that's where the ultra-processed food is.
So shop around the outside.
You have to shop around the outside, which is where the real food is.
The fridges and
the produce and the meats and the dairy, okay? Mm-hmm. Not to say that there isn't, ultra-processed food and sugar hiding in those places too, but if you've gone into the, standard, aisles, that's where all the ultra-processed food is hiding. And, 73% of the items in the American grocery store are poison. So if you go into the grocery store, you already have a problem.
So the first one is don't go hungry. The second one is to
stay on the outside of the
The aisle.
supermarket.
Yeah. Anything else for Jenny and Dave?
And most importantly, I don't want them to have to read food labels because that's kind of, out of bounds. Okay. But they should basically, if a food has a label, it's a warning label. That's how they should look at it. Okay. And if any food has a sugar in the first three items, the first three ingredients, it's dessert. That's how they should look at it. So, Chinese chicken salad is dessert.
Do you know what? The other day I looked at, my friend was drinking a can of Coca-Cola. Mm-hmm. And I picked it up and I thought, I've not seen one of these in a while. And I looked at the back of it and it said the sugar quantity in it was something like 40% in that region.
Yeah, so it's 39 grams in a can, yeah. No, that's right.
I was like, so 40% of it
is sugar.
Is just sugar.
Correct.
And people are just...
There you go.
No wonder.
That's why we have a fatty liver disease pandemic.
And sugar's fundamentally linked to things like cancer as well, right?
Yes, absolutely. And we know why now. We know how, through what mechanisms.
What are the mechanisms?
For cancer?
Yeah.
Okay. So first of all, anything that makes insulin go up increases your risk for cancer because insulin is a growth factor. Okay. Secondly, because insulin causes mitochondrial dysfunction, okay, it increases these other phenomena, like, for instance, the pentose phosphate shunt and the Randle cycle and the de novo lipogenesis, which is what cancer cells need to be able to multiply and divide. Okay, so it's basically feeding the cancer. Number three, certain cancers, particularly pancreatic cancer, have an enzyme in them called transketolase. And what that can do is that can take fructose and turn it into glucose in the cancer cell only, so that when you're actually consuming sugar, you are feeding the cancer specifically. Yet, what do we give cancer patients? Ensure, which is like straight fructose. So you are actually feeding the cancer. So that's like ridiculous. Okay. In addition, because fructose interferes with mitochondrial function, okay, that sends a feedback mechanism to the rest of the cell to divide. Because dividing cells are in growth phase, they don't have mitochondria. That's why cancer cells don't have mitochondria. That's why fetal cells don't have mitochondria. Anaerobes don't have mitochondria. They grow the fastest, provided that the conditions are right. So bottom line, anything that interferes with mitochondrial function puts you at risk for cancer.
And are we seeing cancers growing? There's the incidence of people getting cancer, that's growing?
Oh, absolutely. And people getting cancer earlier and earlier, especially colorectal cancer. My God, the mean age of colorectal cancer used to be 50 to 55. It is now, we are seeing patients with, colorectal cancer in their 30s and early 40s. This is why.
Because of
sugar. That's a huge problem.
It is a huge problem.
So that's what I would suggest Dave and Jenny do to start. Okay, but ultimately they have to get their sugar and ultra-processed food consumption under control. And the question is, can they do it alone? Chances are, to be honest with you, they probably can't. And the reason is because they're sugar addicted and because the food industry's basically made it impossible for them to avoid. That's what we have to fix. We have to allow them the capability of being able to access real food. This is why I'm so upset with what's going on with this argument here in the United States over SNAP. Are you familiar with SNAP?
No.
SNAP is the Supplementary Nutrition Assistance Program, SNAP, also known as food stamps. Okay? I actually testified in front of Congress, in front of the House Appropriations Committee last year to fix SNAP. Now, to get soda off SNAP, because soda is like the worst thing, and it's also the thing that most people use their SNAP dollars, their SNAP vouchers to purchase. And it's killing people. And so I don't think soda should be on SNAP. And so what I did was I testified basically explaining the science, in Congress, And I said that what we need to do is take the money that by banning soda sales on Snap, if people want to spend their own money on soda, that's their business. But we shouldn't be, using a federal government subsidy program to subsidize their death. We should take the money that's saved from the soda sales and utilize it to improve the nutrition of those same people. Real vegetables, dietary supplements, fiber, water, things that will be healthy for them. In other words, divert the monies. They didn't hear that. The Republicans are trying to basically gut Snap. They're trying to get rid of it as an entity entirely. And if they can't gut it, they will basically make it so that they take the soda away, which is good, except it's not going to improve the rest of their nutrition because they're basically just going to take that money and repocket it. So how you set these legislation agenda items up is super important. And right now, this government's not doing it.
The messages and emails that you get from people that have heard you on podcasts or have read your books or seen your work in other places, what is the typical question that those people asked? If you had to summarize the question into one question, what is it that people ask you the most?
Is juice healthy?
Really?
Serious. That's probably the most common question. You say sugar's bad, but isn't juice healthy?
Is juice healthy?
Juice is not healthy. Fruit is healthy. So what's the difference between fruit and juice? The fiber. Fruit has fiber. The fiber reduces the rate of absorption from the gut into the bloodstream. And in doing so, you reduce the insulin response, you reduce the glucose response, you basically protect the liver. And because you've prevented its early absorption, it goes further down the intestine where the microbiome can chew it up for its own purposes, thus feeding the gut and generating short-chain fatty acids, which are therefore metabolically beneficial, anti-inflammatory, anti-Alzheimer's. And the fiber acts like little scrubbies on the inside of the colon to get rid of colon cancer cells. So you get all sorts of benefits from the fiber in the fruit. But as soon as you juice it, you've thrown the fiber in the garbage. And so all you now have is sugar water. So eat the fruit, don't drink the juice. Problem is, that's not what the food industry is selling.
What if I put the fruit in a blender and then instead of throwing out the gunk, I keep all the little bits in there?
So what happens is that the blades in the Breville or the Vitamix or the NutriBullet or whatever you use to make your smoothie, those blades are shearing that fiber into smithereens, into such short pieces that it can't actually act as a lattice work to sequester and prevent that absorption. So the rate of absorption in the intestine is just as fast, and so the fructose and the glucose will still get to the liver just as fast as it did before when it was juice. So that's not the answer. So making a smoothie out of it is not the answer.
I was looking at the top comments from our last conversation, and they're all extremely, I'd say similar, but they're all incredibly inspiring. Someone here's written the top comment, which I shall record the screen so Jack can throw it on the screen. It says, Stephen, I discovered Robert 3 years ago after my doctor told me I was pre-diabetic. 3 years on, my blood levels are completely normal and everyone tells me how good I look recently. This man should be on every TV in the world, but the food industry is trying to shut him up. Follow the work and you will change your life like he changed mine. Stuart J, 59 years old, male in the UK.
That's very heartening. I'm glad to hear that. Good for you, Stuart.
My friend was diagnosed with stage 4 prostate cancer and given 1 year to live. He found Dr. Lustig and rigorously followed his advice. Keto diet, intermittent fasting, regular walking. That was 2 years ago. He's now in remission. The cancer is gone. I was diagnosed with prediabetes, fibromyalgia, and decided to cut out all the sugar, including fruit. Not only did I lose 60 pounds in under a year, but my pain went from 10 to 1 to 2.
Wow.
I had more energy, my A1C dropped to normal levels, and I went from being fully disabled to going back to work full time, cutting out all the sugar is hard, I won't lie. It's also a constant battle, but it is so worth it.
Well.
And lastly, I listened to this podcast last year. I made a decision on December the 28th, 2023 to stay away from all candy, brownies, maple walnut scones, and all desserts. You get the idea. It is now approaching December 28th, 2024. And besides rewatching this video, I have made another commitment to do the same thing I did last year. It's a shame that 73% of what's in the aisles in the grocery store have hidden sugar in it. And so I haven't gotten radical about it. But the changes I've made have made me feel terrific. Dr. Robert is the cat's meow. And he has a giant part in me getting me back purring. I'm 68 and play 5 days a week, 2 to 4 hours a day pickleball.
Wow.
I love the choices I've made. I love you, doctor.
Oh, you know what? I love you too. And I'm 68. Maybe when I go to the UK, we'll have a date.
Well, that's Leslie. She's quite a pretty.
Oh, very nice.
How does that make you feel?
Very heartened.
I can see the emotion in your face.
Yeah, no, very heartened. But the problem's not fixed. The problem's fixed for each of these people, but the problem's not fixed. And because the problem's not fixed, I still have a job to do. So it gives me more strength to do it. It gives me more purpose and gives me more reason to do it. But, the problem's not fixed.
Do you think one of the most impactful things that we could all do for our health is just to reduce our sugar consumption?
That's job one. Okay? There are many things, but without question, that's the easiest one. And to be honest with you, the food industry should be helping us do that. The only reason the sugar's in the food is because they wanted it there. They put it there on purpose because they knew when they add it, you buy more.
And exercise, how does that impact my decision to reach for sugar or not reach for sugar?
Well, it doesn't really impact your desire to reach for sugar. It has its own metabolic benefits. I'm totally for exercise. Don't get me wrong. I am completely for exercise. Exercise does many good things, but burning calories is not one of them. Mm-hmm. Okay, people think, exercise to work off the donut that I ate. Wrong. Forget it. That's not what it's about. What does exercise do? Exercise increases mitochondria. And that's good because you need increased mitochondrial reserve in order to make all that ATP. Exercise increases brain trophic factors, which are necessary for cognition. And it's been shown now that exercise is one of the primary methods for mitigating the risk for dementia. Okay? It increases brain-derived neurotrophic factor. It increases leptin. All of these are necessary to promote synaptogenesis and even increase neurogenesis, more neurons, so that they don't die. So I'm all for exercise. Exercise also increases muscle mass, and muscle mass, is a mitigating factor for early demise. Like I said, sarcopenia is a risk factor for early demise. So exercise is the way to undo that. Having said that, none of that had anything to do with weight loss. Okay, so if you think exercise is going to make you lose weight, you are deluded. You are under a delusion. You have adopted the calorie hypothesis. I am here to dispel. I am here to destroy the calorie hypothesis. A calorie is not a calorie.
So many of the people that are listening to this conversation right now, if they're in the United States or if they're in other parts of the world that have similar health stats, are diabetic or pre-diabetic. 1 in 10 people worldwide have diabetes. And in the United States, 1 in 3 to 4 of adults that are listening right now are pre-diabetic, even if you don't have a huge amount of fat on your body.
It's actually 40%, 4 out of 10.
Which is crazy.
Yeah, that's right.
It means that almost half of the people listening right now, whether you know it or not, could well be pre-diabetic if you fit into the statistics that we have here. Mm-hmm. I mean, terrifying?
Oh, yeah.
So for those people that are pre-diabetic that have just found out, because I asked this question because there is a guy here that says his doctors just told him he's pre-diabetic, and he's listening to the show probably again. So I wanted to offer him something. His doctors just told him that he's pre-diabetic. What should he be doing?
All right. First thing, get rid of all ultra-processed food from your diet.
Okay.
And in the process, you will have gotten rid of all the sugar from your diet. That's the first thing. See how that works. Okay, spend 2 weeks doing just that. If that works, fantastic. If that doesn't work, add some exercise. Walk your dog.
Okay, so on the first point, should he be using a glucose monitor to help him? Because people can get on Amazon or these other websites, $20, $30, you can get a glucose monitor for your arm.
Yeah. So I am for glucose monitors. And the reason is because they are a substitute, a proxy for insulin. When the glucose goes up, that means the insulin goes up. And it's the insulin that really makes the difference. So we have documentation of the fact that by monitoring your own glucose concentration, you can see improvements in metabolic health down the line. You can food log, you can use the glucose monitoring. You don't need to do glucose monitoring. You can just do it with the food logging and it will still work. Bottom line, there are a whole bunch of scientists who are against using glucose monitors for non-diabetics. And they write about this routinely. They seem to write about it always in the New York Times. Now, I am completely 180 degrees opposite on that. I think it is a very good idea. The reason that they say it is a bad idea is because if you're using the same outcome variables as for diabetes, time in range, time above range, time below range, well, these are non-diabetics. So, of course, all of those numbers are going to be in the center. They're going to be in the time in range. So it looks like there's no benefit to that, okay? That's not the point. The point is the downstream outcomes which come 3 months later. They're not looking at that. We have those data. We are looking at that, and the data are very good.
Do you know what I think is really, really useful with those CGMs, those continuous glucose monitors that you can buy online super cheaply, is they just educate you on the impact that different foods you might have thought were healthy, like the juices we talked about.
Like rice.
Yeah, like rice. Oh my God, white rice. That's actually one of the big things I learned. Do you know, there's three things that have shocked me over the last couple of years that I thought were healthy. So I grew up thinking that orange juices were healthy. I remember being a young kid and getting the Sunny Delight out of the fridge and like glugging it because I'd seen on the advert, it said vitamin C or something.
Yep.
And I thought, oh, vitamin C, good, glug it. I've come to learn
that was their subterfuge, and you were a victim.
I was a victim, and I would like compensation. Sunny D.
I think the entire, UK population, the US population, deserves compensation.
There's a young lady in the comment section who watched our conversation last time. She said a quote from this doctor that I loved and I've never forgotten is, "Any food that is linked to a television commercial should not be consumed." Brilliantly said, and a great boundary to put in place.
Yep, that's right.
Any food that is linked to a television commercial should not be consumed. It's so true. They don't put cucumbers in television commercials.
Nope. Not enough marketing money, not enough margin.
So Sunny D, so orange juices generally, I don't drink any juices anymore. I haven't for years now. The other one was white rice. I thought that was healthy growing up. Thought it was really, really healthy. And then I did a continuous glucose monitor with a company that I'm an investor in called Zoe.
Yes, I'm aware.
And it gave me this, it was horrific, the impact on my like gut microbiome and my glucose levels. And the third one was tomato ketchup. I didn't know there was so much bloody sugar.
Oh, yeah.
In most ketchups.
In fact, Heinz ketchup is half high fructose corn syrup.
Madness. And that's I think that's the value of getting a continuous glucose monitor, even if you just run it for 14 days, is you'll learn your relationship with these things you frequently eat. And most of us are frequent eaters. We eat the same kind of things.
Indeed.
And you can make some trades. What is the most important thing we haven't talked about that we should have talked about, Robert?
I know what we haven't talked about. Psychedelics.
What would you like to talk about with psychedelics?
Psychedelics are serotonin. A big dose, a big glug of serotonin all at once. What serotonin does is it provides you with this sense of complacency, of eudaimonia, of contentment. Serotonin is necessary to rewire areas of the brain. You can actually see it on MRI. It's actually leading to synaptic rewiring. Think of it this way.
Can I just confirm that, just on one point? You're not saying that psychedelics create serotonin. You're saying that they are the same.
They're a serotonin mimicker.
Okay, yeah.
They mimic serotonin.
Yeah.
Think of it this way. You live on a mountain, okay, with snow. And you have to, every week, go down to the general store at the base of the mountain. And you ski down there. And you ski down there. And you ski down there. And the snow falls, and you ski down there. And soon, what you've done is you've created ridges in the snow for you to get down the hill. And they freeze. And soon, the only way to get down the hill is through the ridges that you've created. You are now basically in a rut. You have trapped into that path. There's no other way out your house other than those ridges that have frozen in place. That's what's happening in your brain. You can't unthink your way out of it because that's the only way you know. Psychedelics are like a huge, enormous blizzard, filling in the ruts, filling in the ridges. So you end up with a pristine, snowbank for you to be able to basically ski any which way you want. It's your way out of your rut. And what we have in America, and UK too, is a whole lot of people with a set of belief systems that have put them into ruts that they can't think their way out of. Now, can this be done without psychedelics? Absolutely, but it's hard. Psychedelics are a way to, shall we say, hack that belief system concept and allow you to rethink your own life and the life of the people around you and how you interact with them. And we need more research in this to solve mental illness and also improve the well-being of sizable proportion of the population.
I'm a big fan of the research taking place in the psychedelic field. I actually spent a year of my life in what I believe is the biggest psychedelics company in the world as an investor, and then as a director in a capacity where I was helping to drive fundraising through marketing, and then the company is now a public business that's doing a lot of the clinical studies. So,
which one is it? It's
a Thai Life Sciences. I'm obviously Compass Pathways as well. I'm an investor in that company, and I'm a big fan of what MAPS are doing as it relates to using these molecules for mental health disorders and treatment-resistant depression, PTSD, anxiety, etc. And it's so shocking to me that it's taken so long to...
Yeah, well, they got a bad rap from Nixon, back in the 1970s. I understand why. By the way, no one should do psychedelics alone.
Yeah.
You do them with a guide. You do them with someone you completely trust, where safety is paramount.
Yeah.
And they can be really remarkable.
And we talk about set and setting, which is
yes.
Hopefully they'll be done in clinical settings with as you say, with a practitioner.
Yes, that's the only way they should be done.
Dr. Robert, we have a closing tradition on this podcast where the last guest leaves a question for the next, not knowing who they're leaving it for.
I knew it was coming.
Yes, you did. Looking at your life and the lives of others, how would you describe the journey of life and how to approach it?
When you come out of the box, when you're born, okay, you already have neurons and synapses and neural pathways that have developed even though you've had no experience. The experience will either solidify those or destroy them. Ultimately, those turn into belief systems. Almost every belief system that you thought you understood about how the world works is wrong. You have to be open to the fact that all the things you thought were true aren't. And if you're that open with yourself, you will know yourself. And if you know yourself, you can be happy. But if you believe your belief systems and you never question them, you're never going to get there.
Amen. Robert, thank you so much. I say to some people sometimes at the end of these podcasts that they're doing good in the world, but you're quite frankly saving a lot of people's lives. I mean, the fact that all the top comments on the video seem to be dominated by the same narrative that you've saved someone's life, you've improved their life is there any higher work one can do with their life than improve the quality and duration and health of someone else's life? And that's exactly what you're doing. It's what you've done through your public advocacy work. I know you recently spent some time with Prince Charles in the UK, which is incredibly exciting, the King of England, talking to him about health outcomes and all of the work that you've been doing. And it's what an honor it is to be invited by him to, him asking for your opinions and your perspective on health, which I know is something that's quite close to the heart of the King. And then through these books, these incredible books that I have in front of me here, which I'm going to link all of them below. This one's new, right? So this one's...
Yes, it's coming out September 16th.
Okay, so that will be out by the time the conversation's out, I believe. And these incredible books, there's so many of them that I can't pick a favorite child, but they're all incredible depending on where people are at in their lives and what they're trying to understand. Robert, thank you so much.
It's been my pleasure.